program will begin shortly. Launch sequence. Activate. Warning, the following content is not politically correct. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back to the channel today, everyone. I'm Sarah Higdon. This is Transform to Freedom. Y'all, 1 week. We're coming into the final week of this election, and can I just say I'm ready for it to be done. I'm ready for all of this to be done. Like, I'm getting those last minute text messages all day, every day. Like emails, text, all this stuff. I don't want them anymore. And then you click stop to end, and then they don't end. They just keep coming. I'm ready for it to be done. It makes me want to never, ever, ever give my information to a campaign again or donate to a campaign again at all. You know, I think it's getting ridiculous at this point. Like, why am I getting messages for Ted Cruz? I'm not voting for Ted Cruz. I'm not donating money to Ted Cruz. He doesn't even represent me. He's not. See, this is something with me, though. I'll tell you. I actually think that the laws and regulations should be that you can't donate to a candidate unless they are your representative. I think that would change a lot of different things. It wouldn't change for the presidency, but it would change big money from California coming into a state like Georgia to try to sway elections. It's not much different than foreign interference in local elections, right? I think if California sends money to Georgia or vice versa, then it's kind of the same thing as it's very similar to another country donating money into a presidential election here in the United States, right? So if people from England are donating money to Kamala Harris's campaign, like we talked about last week, well, they're not donating, but they're coming over here to interfere with our elections anyways. But that shouldn't be allowed, right? And so I think we definitely need to get that taken care of. And yeah, I'm just ready for this to be done. I voted last Tuesday, so I was on. I think I told you guys last week I had been driving by the polling place, just waiting until there was no line. So Tuesday I went. There was no line, so I voted. And then actually Wednesday was a really cool day. So I don't know if I told y'all I was going, but I went to. So TP USA was having the Trump rally right here, not too far from my house. It was up in Duluth. And I went up there. I saw the entire event. It was pretty phenomenal. I had a press pass, so I had really good good access, and I was really close. So it was pretty cool. So this is actually one of the pictures I took. Oh, it's one of the pictures I took while I was there. Oh, a second. You can see this is Trump right here, just to my right. So that was cool. The energy in there was electric. You know, I can't describe it. It was exciting, and I was actually think that we got a pretty good deal. Like the speakers that were there, like almost all the speakers I really liked, and everything, I liked a lot of the speakers. It was just a really good event. Got really interested to see RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, and I actually I've known. So this is actually I got pictures with me and Seth Dillon. Now I've known Seth Dillon for maybe 2 years now. Seth was actually one of the ones that helped me get my Twitter account reinstated without deleting the tweet that said gender dysphoria is a mental illness. Seth did that, and then he was here in Georgia, and I thanked him personally, and that's when we kind of connected. And I wouldn't say we're friends, but we're acquaintances. We talk sometimes behind the scenes. It was pretty good. And then I have to tell you, I met Paula Scanlon, who, if you don't know who that is, actually is the swimmer from UPenn, who has been speaking out. She was on the team with Leah Thomas and has spoken out about that and how they were silenced at the time. And then obviously Riley Gaines was one of the speakers at this event, and she was great. You know, I didn't think that Riley would know who I was, but she did. And I'm not going to dive into the details of our personal conversation real quick, but I will just say that she was super sweet, super nice. I have a ton of respect for her. And hopefully we get to do some stuff. Hopefully me and her can have a deeper conversation when the craziness of the election is over. So yeah, that was cool. And actually, if you don't know who Liz Willis is she works for RSBN, and she's great. I've talked to her a little bit in the past. She's really great, and I got to meet her as well in person. This is the first time we've met in person, and she's super sweet. Loved it. It was really interesting, you know, because everybody says that, everybody's calling, you know, MAGA supporters are, quote, you know, transphobic, homophobic, and all this. And I go to an event like this, and I actually have people come up to me. And if anybody that came up to me at the event is watching this, that took pictures, definitely post them or send them to me. I love to see them. I love to see when people come up and talk to me. But there were so many people that came up to me, knew who I was. I'm somebody who I don't expect people to know who I am. I'm not that big of a name out there. One person knew me from the Blair White event that we did here in Georgia. And then I did know a couple people from other events that I've done, that I've worked on with stuff here in Georgia. But it was really interesting. Yeah, I go there and everybody's super cool, super kind. Never have any issues with this crowd. You know, it's really crazy when you get out and actually meet these people, and they're absolutely not the people that the internet tries to, you know, the people on the other side, on the left, try to make them out to be. They're not these hateful people. I mean, both Seth and Riley are both Christians. I mean, the Babylon Bee is a Christian publication, and they're just, like I said, they're both super kind and amazing people, and I really appreciate all of them, and I appreciate their voices and everything that they're doing. And they're the people that I can talk to and work with. They're the type of people that you could talk to, be honest and open with, and, you know, maybe come to some common ground on some common solutions that work for everybody. I don't, you know, like I said, the people at this rally were nothing but kind. So it was a fun event. It was really, one of the things that was really interesting. So let me see. So this person posted these pictures, right? Now, if you look at this picture right here, actually right here, this one, this is when RFK Jr. is taking the stage. Well, I zoomed that picture in, and it's actually a really good quality picture, because yes, Grasshopper Riley she's a very very wholesome person from what I gather. I mean, she was super nice and super kind, and I think that people, I don't know, people just, they want to hate on her for speaking out against something that actually the majority of people agree on. And I think that, I think that me and her can have a conversation and kind of come up with some solutions to some of these issues in a much more meaningful way than we're seeing happening on the left. It's left, right, demonizing each other. And I think one of my roles to play in this whole thing is to bridge that gap between the extreme, the people on, to really show that trans people are just normal people. Like, honestly, I've worked so hard in my life to show that it's not even really the most interesting thing about me, and it's not what I actually want to be doing. I want to be doing stuff like this. This event was actually so cool to me. This event was great to me. Going up to North Carolina was another thing that I really liked, because it's me stepping out and doing something that my identity, as a trans person, is not even relevant to the conversation. I love that, because that's what all I want. I just want to be a creator. I want to be a news commentator. That's why we do this show. That's why we don't talk trans issues that much on this show. I mean, we're going to at one point today, but it's not even that relevant to my daily life. It's not the most important thing. It's not the thing that I think about the most on a daily basis. It's really a non-issue usually in my daily life, and it should be to everybody. But this was really cool. I've never seen this type of thing. So you can see this picture in the top right corner. And then I realized when I zoomed in on this really cool picture, I said, oh, hey, that's me. And so you can actually see me right here. That's me standing there with my phone up. That's how you can see that's where the picture was that I showed you. And then somebody's like, yeah, that's super clear. You can tell. But what I've never seen is when I'm taking pictures and video, taking pictures and video and stuff like that, to see the picture of myself doing it. And then we had already posted on the Post Millennial the video. So this is the video that you see me posting. So that was cool. And then, of course, you have, let me see, actually. Then you have the entrance of Donald Trump, which I'm not going to play this again, but because copyright stuff, but.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 45th President of the United States of America,
Yeah, I don't want to play it because I've gotten in trouble. They'll try to demonetize this video with copyright strikes. Now, I would hope that Lee Green wouldn't copyright strike me or copyright me. So then I have to end up taking those parts out when they demonetize the video. But actually, so going back to RFK Jr., though, I do want to point out this tweet that he put out the other day. And, I mean, we can talk. I wasn't a big pusher of RFK as a third party candidate. I think he's great on the health stuff. And it's interesting because we'll see how this happens. But I had a NBC reporter that I talked to today about the state of, we'll see what it is, but it's kind of the state of where trans people feel about this election. So NBC, we'll see how that goes. But I brought up RFK Jr. because I think that most of his stuff I'm not gonna. He's still very Democrat on a lot of different things, but where he comes down on the health stuff is great. Like this whole "Make America Healthy Again" issue is I'm with it. I am totally with it. You know, I'm very, as I say, I'm very crunchy when it comes to like what I put in my body and everything like that. I've just started looking into seed oils and but they're in literally everything. But I've generally just been a vegetable and meat type person. That's all I eat is vegetables and meat. But if I eat a salad, then it's all seed oils in your salad. So I'm starting to pull back from that and just put like balsamic vinegar and stuff like that on my salads and pull back and try to get rid of even those seed oils. But I think when I read this message and for everybody that's listening, I'll read it and say, it says the FDA's war on public health is about to end. This includes the aggressive suppression of psychedelics, peptides, stem cells, raw milk, hyperbaric therapies, chelitine compounds, ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, vitamins, clean foods, sunshine, exercise, nutraceuticals, and anything else that advances human health and can't be patented by pharma. If you work for the FDA and are part of this corrupt system, I have two messages for you: preserve your records and pack your bags. I love it. If you've watched me for quite a while, I mean, stem cells seem to be having a big, like, stem cells are an interesting one. They seem to be able to help very well with a lot of different things. But if you've watched me for a while, I've kind of gone after our health industry quite a bit. I think that we're overprescribing SSRIs. I think that we're overprescribing SSRIs. I think that a lot of times our mental health professionals are taking the easy way out and throwing pills at situations, whether that's SSRIs or it's gender medicine, instead of getting to the root cause. You know, is this autism or is it gender dysphoria? Is it, I know I have a friend who is borderline. Is this borderline personality disorder, or is it gender dysphoria, or is this trauma? Because we see a lot of young girls that are wanting to opt out of womanhood because they've had trauma. They've been sexually assaulted. That's why they opt to go through this. So instead of fixing the root issue, they're being transitioned. And a lot of mental health stuff, we're just pushing SSRIs onto everybody right now. We're pushing SSRIs onto kids, more kids than ever. And there's so many different things. And I talk about psychedelics a lot because psychedelics have so much potential to be a cure for so many different things. Like, as a veteran who knows a lot of people with PTSD, and I suffer my own mental health issues from my time in the service, not PTSD specifically, but other issues that I've had. I know so many people that are on SSRIs that they just say, I wish I could try psychedelic psychotherapy. So psychedelics with using psychedelics with the help of a therapist to work through the issues. I've been reading so much about this, and this to me, like everything he's putting out here, it's it's what's needed. And then you have somebody like RFK who goes in and starts working on health stuff, overseeing like the FDA. And then you have somebody like Thomas Massey who can get in there and be in charge of agriculture. That would be freaking amazing. Thomas Massey, that's like the perfect job for him to be in that position. If you can get those types of things, I think that these are the things that are making me excited. No new wars, Thomas Massey in the ag, make America healthy again. I think that Trump has really surrounded himself with the right people this time. He's created this like unity bubble of people from all across the political spectrum to do good things. And it's not even just about Trump. It's I mean, Grasshopper says Trump and the Avengers. I would say that Trump's more just like was it Dr. Fury, or is it just so Fury, who just pulls together these people who are so good in their niche areas. Like Tulsi Gabbard is so good on the anti-neocon, anti-war perspective, and then she's also right there in the thick of it when it comes to trans women or males and female sports and transitioning children. Like she's right there in the thick of that too, so she knows that issue. You got RFK and the health, and you got I mean, it's exciting to see all of this start to unravel. And like I said, we're in the last week of the election, so if you haven't gone to vote, make sure you go vote. Go vote, go vote, go vote. Like one of the key parts of Seth Dillon's speech, he said something like 34% of Christians are considering not voting in this election. And when you look at those numbers, the last election was won by a couple 100,000 votes, where this election could be decided on people that decide not to vote. So go vote. Now, I'm not going to get into it too much though either, because I would say go vote, make your voice heard. And if your voice is to protest and not vote, then I respect that too. I understand. I don't think a no vote is a vote for the other side. But if you're watching this show, I would assume that you might. Well, I can't assume that because I know a lot of liberals are in my audience that found me through Jubilee, so I can't really say that I can really tell who you would go vote for. So, let's see. Okay, jumping now into, like I said, we are going to talk about one trans story today. So, again, we've hammered this on this show so many times, but a California doctor refused to publish a study. One second. So, California, my dogs are barking. So, California doctor refuses to publish a study on puberty blockers over fears it will be weaponized. And this is because it showed that puberty blockers are not beneficial. So let me see. So this is, again, just shows that the medical industry is captured. The medical industry is not based on scientific facts. They don't want you to have all the facts. They hide data. They don't publish this stuff when they don't publish this stuff when it goes against their narrative. So Dr. Joanna Olson Kennedy, the director of Children's Hospital in Los Angeles Center for Trans Youth Health and Development, has revealed that she has not yet published the results of a long-awaited study on puberty blockers for minors because of potential political attacks. So Kennedy began the study in 2015, recruiting 95 children from across the U.S. as part of a $9.7 million federal project on transgender youth, giving the subjects puberty blockers. Researchers then followed the children's development over 2 years to see how the drugs affected their mental health. So kind of, again, trying to recreate the Dutch protocol, which allowed children to go up to puberty blockers before transitioning at 16. It's never been able to be recreated, the results from it, but yet it was what kind of created this cascade of guidance when it came to treating gender dysphoric youth. But even the creators of that study said it was never intended to be used the way that we're using it now. Even so, Olson-Kennedy told the Times that her study did not come to the same results as those previous ones, which were at the time widely considered to be positive. She said that puberty blockers did not lead to mental health improvements in her subject, and that was likely because they were already doing well to begin with. They're in really good shape when they come in, and they're in really good shape after 2 years. The conclusion differs from an earlier description of the group, which notes that elevated levels of depression or suicidal ideation are attempts. When asked why the results have not been published, especially at a time where the topic of sex changes for children is frequently in the headlines, she said that the findings may fuel political attacks that have led to bans of youth gender treatments in more than 20 states. I don't want our work to be weaponized, she said. It has to be exactly on point, clear and concise, and that takes time. She wants to manipulate the data is what it kind of sounds like to me, just speculation, because you want it to further the agenda. And yeah, if it's not beneficial the way that you guys are trying to say that it is, if it's not beneficial the way that WPATH says that it is, then yes, it should be banned. I mean, I don't think that children can consent to this stuff anyways, but it should be banned if it doesn't if it doesn't create better outcomes. They use these ideas that the suicidal ideations as an attack, that if you don't let these kids transition, then they will unalive themselves. But this study doesn't show that. The study doesn't do any of that. It doesn't show that that's the case. And if that's not the case, then we're sterilizing children for no reason. Instead of getting them the proper mental health care that they need to get them to adulthood, and then let them make the decision when they're an adult. They are weaponizing their own data by not releasing it. They're not giving you informed consent. This is withholding informed consent, actually. Anybody who I don't know how this works, but people should be going. If I don't know if she's an actual doctor and actually sees patients outside the clinical trial setting, but I would think that this would be medical malpractice. This is research malpractice at the least. And so, Amy Tishelman, a clinical research psychologist at the Boston College, and one of the study's original researchers, said, "I understand the fear about it being weaponized, but it's really important to get the science out there." It is. That's informed consent. She noted that even if the drugs did not lead to improvements, they may have prevented the children's mental health from getting worse. No change isn't necessarily a negative finding. There could be a preventative aspect to it, she said. We just don't know without more investigation. In a progress report to the NIH in 2020, Olson-Kennedy hypothesized that children would show decreased symptoms of depression, anxiety, trauma symptoms, self-injury, and suicidality, and increased body esteem and quality of life over time. Instead, that study has found that they have good mental health. They have good mental health on average. They're not in any concerning ranges, either at the beginning or 2 years after. So they didn't screen their patients properly, if that's the case. The patients in these should be the most extreme cases of gender dysphoria, right? The most extreme cases are the only ones that should be taking part in studies like this. So yeah, Dr. Cass also said it's really important we get the results out there so we understand whether it's helpful or not. Olson-Kennedy previously was exposed talking about how she and others work to deplatform detransitioners. So she doesn't want detransitioners speaking out against this. So she's not really a great person to be conducting this research in the first place. She's not objective. As a scientist, you should be the most objective person. I mean, we see journalists as supposed to be an objective, but scientists need to be like the most objective people, you would think. But she worked to deplatform detransitioners from speaking out about their experiences, writing on the International Transgender Health Facebook page. So many of us worked hard to dissuade 60 Minutes from doing this segment. She has also advocated for double mastectomies for gender dysphoric 13-year-old girls, claiming that if you want to get breasts at a later stage in your life, you can go get them. That's not true, because if you get a double mastectomy, one, there's scar tissue that creates issues when trying to get a breast augmentation later on, but also you can't breastfeed your child. That's a big deal. That's a big deal to a lot of young women when they are young females when they have kids. So yeah, that's what's happening now. Let's move on to Madison Square Garden, y'all. Let's move on to Madison Square Garden. Oh, because the left and the media have lost their ever-loving mind. They've lost it. Like, listen, y'all, I'm tired of hearing that the right are literal Nazis. I'm literally... There was I was watching something earlier today where there was a some papers are reporting now people are getting Nazi fatigue. People are just getting tired of being called Nazis, or and or hearing people being called Nazis when it's obviously nobody here is a Nazi. Nobody's a fascist. You don't even know what a fascist means. Like, I said on Twitter yesterday, I said, it's kind of amazing. It's kind of crazy that the left thinks that calling 50% of the country Nazis is a winning strategy. That's crazy to me. Like, you think, like, remember when Hillary Clinton's basket of deplorables was the insult that people were like, you really think calling people deplorable is the insult that's going to bring people to your side? No, it's not going to bring anybody to your side. If somebody's thinking about voting for Trump for legit reasons and you're calling them a Nazi, do you think that they're going to be like, okay, so even if I think about that, like, no, it doesn't work. Insulting the other side, insulting the American people like this doesn't work. Like, I mean, if I call Kamala Harris stupid, for example, I'm not calling her supporters stupid. But if you're calling somebody Hitler and you're calling their supporters Nazis, that's not going to be, I mean, it's not going to bring people to you. And people are getting so just tired of it that honestly, they might just vote for Trump just to be like, you know what, whatever. It devalues it. Like, I know somebody who, so let's just watch again MSNBC's coverage, and if you don't hate the media enough, like these types of things do it.
But that jamboree happening right now, you see it there on your screen, in that place is particularly chilling because in 1939, more than 20,000 supporters of a different fascist leader, Adolf Hitler, packed the garden for a so-called pro-America rally. A rally where speakers voiced anti-Semitic rhetoric from a stage draped with Nazi banners. When a Jewish protester rushed the stage, the Associated Press reported, quote, instantly, a dozen or more stormtroopers set upon him, knocking him down and beating him as he held his head in his arms. Most of his clothing was torn from his body. Later, he was booked for disorderly conduct. Now, against that backdrop of history, Donald Trump, the man who has threatened to use the military against opponents he calls enemies from within, who has threatened to...
Well, we'll talk about the enemies from within comment here in a little bit. But I don't understand, like, again, how they think this is the media propagating. This is propaganda. Like, you do know, in 1992, Bill Clinton spoke at Madison Square Garden, right? Is every event that's ever been held at Madison Square Garden, is every event ever held there a Nazi rally simply because the Nazis used the venue in 1939? Was George Bush's, when George Bush spoke there, was that a Nazi rally? It's just, yes, Grasshopper, it's getting so old. It's so old. Let me see. But you know, we talked about Eric Adams last week, or we've talked about him on the show before. Some sense coming from the left with Eric Adams. Thank you, Mayor Adams. And I think it's because since he started speaking out against the administration's immigration policy and not helping New York with the immigration issue, he's been getting attacked. And he's had the DOJ weaponized against him, right? He's had it all weaponized against him. So thankfully he says, no, Trump is not a fascist, and he wasn't going to stop the event from happening. He says, my answer is no. I know what Hitler has done, and I know what a fascist regime looks like. Thank you for some sanity, Mayor Adams. Thank you for some sanity from the left. He says, I've heard some of those terms hurled at me by some political leaders in the city using terms like Hitler and fascist, Adams said. When asked if he considers Trump a fascist, and some, including Vice President Kamala Harris, have suggested, Adams responded, my answer is no. I know what Hitler has done. I know what fascist regime looks like. Adams went on to defend Trump's right to hold the rally, citing the importance of free speech. So, again, all you can do is, and Hillary Clinton's trying to say it's reenacting. Yeah, she forgets her husband spoke there, right? Yeah. But the event itself, like, literally, y'all, the event went on for, this is a good headline from the Post Millennial. Trump's MAGA rally went on at Madison Square Garden for 6 hours, and the worst thing Democrats come up was to criticize was a joke about Puerto Rico from a comedian. So, if you haven't been online today and you haven't seen all this happening, roast comic, I'm going to say this again, roast comic Tony Hinchcliffe made some jokes at the rally that people didn't really like because they were jokes. Okay. Let me see. I think this is the only one I had. This is here.
These are terrifying.
Absolutely wild times. It really, really is. And, you know, there's a lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico. Okay. All right. Okay. We're getting there. No.
Who is?
Like, he knew the joke didn't land. Yes, the joke didn't land with that crowd. Like, that's the whole thing. Yeah, I love Tony Hinchcliffe. Also, people would melt down if they now went back and watched. And I think everybody should watch it. It's his spot on the roast of Tom Brady was like the best spot. Like, it was so good. It was the funniest, and he goes after and makes fun of everybody because he's a roast comic. Now, some people have said this is not the place for that type of comedy. Okay, whatever. But you know, the left is melting down trying to say that this was somehow a racist joke. Like, he's making fun of Puerto Ricans. No. He's making fun of Puerto Rico, the country, not Puerto Ricans, the people. So look, Michael Schellenberger pointed out very well this morning. The media are claiming that the comedian at the Trump rally today made racist jokes about Puerto Ricans. He didn't. He was poking fun at the island's infamous trash problem. The media are acting ignorant, but they have covered it for years. Puerto Rico's trash problem is on this one. Another one. Trash crisis leaves Puerto Rico near the brink. And yet, spews racist, vulgar attacks. Backlash over racist and vulgar remarks. I'm just tired. Tired of people getting offended by everything. These are the same people that get mad at Dave Chappelle for making trans jokes. They don't understand comedy. They think that comedy is supposed to be when you get claps instead of laughs. Like, that's what their comedians go out there to try to get claps, not laughs. And look, that joke fell flat. People didn't get it. People were like, ah. But that's comedy. Sometimes you go up there and you throw a joke out there and it falls flat. It doesn't get laughs. And again, but that's okay. That's kind of the point. You go out there. He was feeling the crowd, and then he started getting a warm up. You could tell, like, the way that Tony interacts with the crowd is he goes out there. You can tell he's going to interact with the crowd the way, and he's going to see what lands, what doesn't, and he's going to start to roll with how the crowd is feeling. Because you can tell when they didn't like that joke, he was like, oh, okay, you guys, basically like, yeah, okay, y'all didn't like that one, cool. And yeah, here's another one from Jack Posobiec. An island littered with trash. How Maria highlighted Puerto Rico's poor waste management. And remember, now they're saying like Trump didn't help Puerto Rico, but remember when Trump sent all that like aid and water and stuff like that to Puerto Rico after Maria, and then they tried to say that he didn't do anything, yet it was their mayor who didn't like distribute the water that we had sent. It was just sitting to go bad on the runway. Yeah, remember that? Let me see. I know Libby posted this. Yeah, here's the whole clip. I don't want to derail this too much, but this is. And yeah, I mean, Tony, he hosts the show Kill Tony. It's one of the biggest podcasts in the world. Oh, I lost audio. 1 second. Here we go. Should be good to go now.
Garden, how we feeling, huh?
To do that, but just know I sleep well at night knowing who I'm voting for. Took the pillowcase off, and there San Francisco turned into one of the most demented cities, one of the greatest downfalls.
This is one of the things, though, right? And so if making fun of Puerto Rico, the country, is bad, are we not allowed to make fun of all the poop in the streets in San Francisco? Is that the same level of bad? They're jokes. And again, you can say this wasn't the right venue for it and all this, but he's a comedian. What do you expect when he goes up there and says this? I don't get it.
Falls I've ever seen. And that is where the other candidate worked for 2 decades. And it's absolutely making babies too. Just know that. They do. Migrants to the United States.
I also want to point out, now people have said it's so George Lopez, there's a clip, I don't have it in here right now, but George Lopez at a Kamala rally recently made a joke about Mexicans being thieves. He said something about Trump's border wall would have to be built in a day because then they would come back the next day and basically the material for the wall would be gone. That's what he said. And they said they claim that it's not racist because he's Mexican. I've been told I'm transphobic because I make trans jokes, so I don't know. Now this one is like, I actually know somebody who is in the audience. I know a lot of people that were in the audience, but I talked to somebody yesterday, and they were like, when it came down to like the Hitler stuff, they were like, thankfully people are making the point. Like, there's a lot of Jewish people in this audience. A lot. And they focused on it's interesting that they focused on the Puerto Rico comments. But I think that Tony made worse jokes than this. And again, they're jokes. Like this one that he's about to tell right now is one that's could be considered more. I mean, there's a couple that could be considered offensive and racist, but their jokes. And if you know Tony, Tony's going to go for it.
Of America with open arms. And by open arms, I mean like this.
He did one about everybody.
It's wild. And these Latinos, they love making babies too. Just know that. They do. They do. There's no pulling out. They don't do that. They come inside, just like they did to our country. Republicans are the party with a good sense of humor. Free speech is under attack, people. I host a show, and each week I get updates what words we're allowed to use and not use anymore. It's happening right now the past few years. It's a real thing. We're eating the pets up there. It is absolutely wild times. It really, really is. And, you know, there's a lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico. Okay. All right. Okay. We're getting there. Again, normally I don't follow the national anthem, everybody.
See, he knows it didn't land. It didn't land. The crowd didn't laugh.
A perfect comedy setup. There's some people here. All right. Very good. I like it. I have other policies that I think it should be implemented as well. Like me personally, I think football should be all year round. Yeah. So many great athletes. I don't know about you guys, but I think that Travis Kelce might be the next O.J. Simpson.
Taylor Swift's boyfriend will never recover. He's making fun of a high-profile white guy.
Feels good in here. The other side's got a lot of crazy endorsements. Swift, Eminem, Leo DiCaprio, Beyonce. Every day the Democratic Party looks more and more like a P. Diddy party. Oh.
See, now he knows.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He acknowledges.
Okay, that's what you guys
understands
want.
what's funny and what's not, what they want.
All right. Heck yeah. It's cool. Black guy with a thing on his head. What the hell is that? A lampshade? Look at this guy. Oh, my goodness. Wow. I'm just kidding. That's one of my buddies. He had a Halloween party last night. We had fun. We carved watermelons together. It was awesome. You guys are, this is a groany little morning crowd, huh? It's tough to follow this audition for the next Commissioner Gordon's over here.
See, the crowd wasn't into it. But that's what happens.
we're
Sometimes
living
you
in.
bomb
I mean,
as a
all
comedian.
these pointless wars.
This is a good point.
It is unbelievable what's happening right now. It is incredible. Ukraine versus Russia, Israel. It's like bad soccer games. Who even cares? What are we doing? Why is our money involved in these wars? When it comes to Israel and Palestine, we're all thinking the same thing. Settle your stuff already. Best out of 3. Rock, paper, scissors. You know the Palestinians are going to throw rock every time. But you also know the Jews have a hard time throwing that paper. You know what I'm saying? All right, we're having fun now. We're cooking. Hillary Clinton said that this is a Nazi rally here today. Can you believe that? For the most anti-war president of my entire lifetime, and she calls him Hitler. Let me remind you, Hillary, it was your husband who shot innocent people, or as he called them, interns. Yeah, Hillary, I bet you did not see that one coming. By the way, if I commit suicide in 3 weeks, I didn't.
All right. That's enough. I mean, you can go watch it. Libby's got it posted on hers, but look, again, it's jokes. It's jokes. And I'm just tired of people getting so offended all the time. Listen, I mean, people started talking about, oh, the punching down and all this stuff, and it's just like, the idea behind punching down is bigoted in and of itself. Like, you have to think of the person as less than if you think that they're punching down. Yeah, the Eddie says a silly joke about carving water mountains is so worse than Obama telling the brothers, in quotes, they're not voting correctly by their race. Come on now. Like, I forget where I was watching something. There was a black comedian that addressed the whole watermelon thing, and there is a historic racial component to it. But he was joking about it, and again, this is I was trying to find the comedian that did it, but he's like, I don't get it, and he basically said it was because he goes, I don't understand why it's even a joke at all, or why it's controversial, because he said it's true, and why is but yeah, it might have been it actually might have been Kevin Hart. I think it might have been Kevin Hart or Chris Rock. You're right, Grasshopper. I think it was one of those two that was talking about it. I think it was in a big special. I don't know. It's comedy, people. Like, again, his jokes at the roast of Tom Brady were so much worse than this. So much worse. Like, and actually, but Kevin Hart's reaction afterwards was like hilarious to the jokes. It was, but again, it's a roast, and he's a roast comic, and he's treated this as a roast, and people say that's wrong. But listen, if you're getting Tony Hinchcliffe, you're getting this, and people are like, oh, they approved, like they were saying that they approved these things. Well, he's reading off his notes, so I don't even know if they're not on the teleprompter. They may not have put them on the teleprompter. He's reading notes, and typically you can see, again, somebody like Tony, he will play the crowd. I think that watermelon joke was just off the top of the head. Like, comedians do crowd work, and so some of these things may not have even been scripted on his thing at all, on his stuff at all. He's just going to play it. He's going to play the crowd work and see what works. And sometimes comedians bomb, and that's part of it, so. All right, y'all, we beat that horse to death, I think. So I want to kind of roll into this, but going into Donald Trump on Joe Rogan. If you didn't watch this 3 hours, it was fun. It was a interesting. It was epic. I think Trump did a great job. Now, look, I noticed something with Trump during it, and I realized, one, it should put to bed this notion that Trump is somehow cognitively impaired, because he is cognitively there. If you watch this episode, he is telling stories, telling like history facts. It was actually really interesting to listen to. Now, I'm going to tell you, I saw myself quite a bit in the way that he is telling stories. Now, see, in a 3-hour special, in Joe Rogan, where he can actually talk, he is allowed to actually, move into these directions where he is somebody who just likes to, as he even said, he does the weave. He goes way out here. He'll go way out here when in telling these intricate details of these stories, but he always brings it back. That's something that I've literally been made fun of my entire life for doing. I have a near photographic memory, and I believe I have undiagnosed ADHD. And so I remember all these little details. And so when I tell stories, I go way down rabbit holes sometimes. And it's taken me, I've worked on this my entire life to realize that people, when I was a little kid, I would do this, but people would say, we don't want, just get to the point, right? I've worked on that as an adult to not weave so far, but I still do weave. Like you guys probably see it when I do this show, I weave quite a bit. That's why we don't get through like nearly all the like at all the topics that I want to talk about, but that's me. And so that's what I really kind of saw that in the interview. But let me talk about real quick this before we get into that completely. I want to talk about this this martial law DOD directive 5240.01. Now, when you hear the Democrats saying that Donald Trump wants to use the military against the American public, understand that this is a directive that they've signed. It's projection when they say it. So just listen to what it does. And Joe reads it. So
thing that the Biden administration pushed through, this new martial law thing.
Yeah.
This is very disturbing. Jamie, please Google this so we can find out what the actual law states. But it's DOD Directive 5240.01, giving the Pentagon power for the first time in history to use lethal force to kill Americans on U.S. soil who protest government policies.
What are they expecting?
5250.01. Sounds right.
Is that what it is?
Sorry.
Did I tell you what it is? I'm sorry. 5240.01. DOD directive. This is from RFK Jr. Posted this on Twitter, and I'm finding out about it because people are blowing me up about it. That's fucking terrifying. That is a terrifying thing to push through for the first time in U.S. history, giving the military the ability to shoot. And
yeah, that's crazy. I would think that it's unconstitutional to use the military to shoot people who are protesting American policy. That's insane. Like you said, what are they expecting? What are they thinking is going to come? Insane. Let me see though. Listen, I don't think Kamala Harris could do Rogan. I would like to see it. I'd like her to go on there, and Joe said he invited her, and she hasn't said no, but she hasn't said yes. And he said he would talk to her like a human being. I think it'd be great. I don't think that she could do it though. And as somebody pointed it out today on Twitter, one of the reasons why is she's so scripted, and one of the reasons why she is, as CNN put it, and I had this in here, but we won't get to it. Why CNN is in here? Why she goes off, as soon as you ask her a question and she doesn't know, she goes into word salad city. It is exactly what David Axelrod said about her, is because she's so scripted. She's not authentic. When you're authentic and you have your own views and you're pushing your own values, you're able to speak. You should be able to speak with no notes, and you should be able to clearly and concisely give your answers and tell your points. So, but Trump was able to speak for hours and hours and without it, and then go to a rally. And so I think that's the reason why she can't do a podcast like Joe Rogan. She has to be very scripted, and it would just be 3 hours of her not really saying anything. And Trump obviously can speak. Now, I will say, the best parts of the episode were in the third hour, when they were talking about, when he was talking about getting shot in the ear, when they were talking about the Make America Healthy Again, because that's something that Joe is passionate about. Loved watching them talk about that, and you know, then they were just kind of talking about the UFC, and it was really a humanizing portion of the speech, of the interview with him, because people don't just get to hear the president just kind of talk and just, I guess, bro out with somebody. It was kind of good. But this is one towards the beginning, when, now I don't know if Joe actually asked him about his mistakes, but he was asking him about that first day in office. As somebody who's never been in DC, never even, He's a New York guy in DC and isn't not politically involved, and now he's got to appoint like thousands of people. And I think Joe had even mentioned he didn't really answer it, but this is actually interesting, and I think this is a good answer that people need to hear. Is when he does describe what his mistakes were when he first came in.
The biggest mistake I made was I picked some people. I picked some great people, but you don't think about that. I picked some people that I shouldn't have picked. I picked a few people that I shouldn't have picked. And
neocons?
Yeah, neocons or bad people or disloyal people or
people that were just
people
bad,
that were into the
people got bad advice.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're reading about them a little bit today. A guy like Kelly, who was a bully, but a weak person. You know more about bullies than anybody probably around because you deal in a certain sport where the bullies are exposed very quickly.
Yeah.
But he's bad. Bolton was an idiot, but he was great for me because I'd go in with a guy like a John Bolton. John Bolton. A friend of mine called me up. I was picking Bolton, and he's a very smart guy. His name is Phil Ruffin. He's a very rich guy from Las Vegas. He's a great card player. He doesn't play cards, but he's a great player. He's just a natural. Got poker sense, right? The good old poker sense. And Phil Ruffin is a very, very wise kind of a guy, and one of the richest people around, and has had great success and understands people. So it was in that I was picking Bolton, or I picked Bolton. He called up. He said, "Don't pick him. Why? He's a bad guy." Now he wasn't in politics at all. He's in various businesses. He said, "He's a bad guy. He's just. It always works out bad with that guy." I said, "Oh man, I wish you told me this 2 weeks ago. I already hired him. He's here," and he was right. But he was good in a certain way. He's a nut job. And every time I had to deal with a country, when they saw this whack job standing behind me, they said, "Oh, man, Trump's going to go to war with us." He was with Bush when they went stupidly into the Middle East.
I love that. I love that answer, to be quite honest, because he's right. Bolton is a neocon nut job, and I love that he's distancing himself from the neocon agenda. He called them a nut job, a whack job, an idiot multiple times. That is, you can't ask for much more than that. And admitting that as a person who was not in politics before this, who was mostly a donor, and that was kind of it, he chose the wrong people. But now he's got the experience under his belt, and I think he's got the right people behind him. I was very critical of him. As I told that NBC reporter today, I voted. Well, so I didn't vote in 2016. I would have had to write in Evan McMullen, but I was in the military, and it just wasn't an easy system for me to even send my ballot in, and it wasn't even really worth my time to fill it out. But I always say I would have voted for Evan McMullen, which would have been a mistake anyway. So I'm glad I didn't cast my ballot there, but that's who I would have done. So it was still a mistake. Joe Jorgensen in 2020, but it's always because I never thought Donald Trump had the right team around him. Now he does. And that's kind of what we started the show off with, and that's where we're at now. And I was very critical of J.D. Vance at first when he I have all these different tabs open to play more from Rogan, but we're not going to get into that because we're at the hour now. But I do want to play this clip with CNN. I'm not going to play this clip, but CNN is, we've talked about them plenty of times. They've jumped ship in a lot of ways. Basically, Dana bashes on what people told her about Kamala following the town hall she did with CNN, which is a layup on CNN. If she was looking to close the deal tonight, they're not sure she did that. At David Axelrod, the word salad city comment. It's interesting. Now you have Washington Post did not endorse Kamala. and people are their editor at large resigned after it. Multiple people canceling their subscriptions because a news outlet decided to be objective. Think about that. I never understood news outlets endorsing candidates of any kind because news is supposed to be objective. And if you endorse, it's a lot harder for you to be objective when it matters. And it makes me lose confidence in you as a news organization. So good on the Washington Post for not endorsing either candidate. I don't think any news outlet should endorse candidates. Their personalities can, but news outlets I don't think should as a whole. Because again, I think that it shows your bias in the editorial staff. But I want to play this last clip here. Let me see. Did I not pull up? Oh, 1 second. This one's not it, but just you can go read it. Oh my God, I hate these ads. Guess I gotta sign up if I want to go ad free. But no, this is another one. Tim Walz invited CCP officials in his Nebraska classroom when he was a teacher. Full report there. Go check that out. Is this not pulling up? Let me see. Let me see. Pull this up. So this is where we were talking about the media has talked about this. The media lying for the Harris campaign, and this is this the right clip? Let me see if this is the right clip. I want to make sure. Yeah, it's the only clip. So because JD Vance turns tables on CNN. Puts Jake Tapper on defense over network lies of Russia and the enemy within comments. Yeah, so this is the enemy within comments that I wanted to bring up earlier, and how the media has completely fabricated this story. This was good.
John Kelly was alarmed, he says, by what he heard when Trump said he wanted to use the National Guard or the Pentagon to go after the enemy within, Americans with whom he disagrees, including
Remember, the
the
Biden
Pelosi's,
administration
Adam
is actually
Schiff.
doing it.
And then he gave an interview. He said that Trump, quote, certainly falls into the general definition of fascist, that he is, quote, certainly an authoritarian, admires people who are dictators. You've called him a disgruntled former employee. But why shouldn't Americans out there listen to somebody who worked closely with Trump, worked with him longer than you've worked with him, retired 4-star Marine general, served his country honorably, who is conservative, who says he agrees with Trump on most policies, but is worried about this aspect of Trump?
So let me just say two things in response. So first of all, a lot of what John Kelly, pretty much all of what John Kelly accuses Donald Trump of saying, there were other people in the room, Mike Pence's former chief of staff, for example, who've explicitly said Donald Trump never said those things, right? So one, on
Mike Pence, the guy who's not going to support Trump because
Mike Pence's former chief of staff said that Donald Trump didn't say those things, right? So that's number one. Number two, I actually think there's an interesting conversation here to have, Jake, which is why does John Kelly not support Donald Trump? It's about policy. It's actually not about personality.
He says he agrees with Trump on most policy.
No,
he agrees with Trump on most policy. He disagrees with Trump on how Trump views his role and his and the fascism and the authoritarianism.
I don't buy that, Jake. I don't buy that, because if you actually look at John Kelly, at folks like Liz Cheney, the fundamental disagreement they have with Donald Trump is, even though they say that they're conservative in the sense that they want America to get involved in a ton of ridiculous military conflicts. They want America to police the world, and Donald Trump wasn't.
John Kelly lost a son in Afghanistan. Why are you saying that he, like, I've never heard John Kelly say whether he supports of Iraq or Afghanistan.
And I honor his son's sacrifice, and I honor his family's sacrifice. That doesn't mean he's not wrong about policy.
What specifically are you talking about? What has he said? That
is your argument that a person who lost his son in Afghanistan can't be wrong about public policy?
I'm asking
then
you.
Why bring that up? Let's talk about public policy
because you were
I've
asking-
never criticized his service or
I
his
brought it
son's
up because you're
service.
acting as if he is pro-war, and I've never heard him say whether or not he supported the war in Afghanistan or the war in Iraq. He was a general carrying out orders.
Because I know John Kelly's worldview, and I know the people who have attacked Donald Trump the most vociferously on foreign policy. They'll say, well, he's a dictator, when what they really mean is they won't listen. Donald Trump wouldn't listen to the leadership of the military when they wanted him to start ridiculous conflicts. That is a consistent theme. And I think that there's a big, big thing going on in American politics. It's a very interesting theme in American foreign policy,
Yeah, then
where a lot of
neocons are making
former
money off the
members of the
military-industrial
Pentagon
complex.
bureaucracy, a lot of
Kelly's
old
no different.
neoconservatives, they have a fundamental difference with Donald Trump on the question of peace and war. I believe Donald Trump is the candidate of peace. I think the record supports that. But the reason these guys go after him so vociferously, I don't think that it's about his personality, Jake. I think that it's about they don't like that Donald Trump said no when a lot of them wanted to start a ridiculous war.
Well,
Yeah, that wasn't the let me see. That's not the clip that I thought it was, to be quite honest. But it's true. I mean, Kelly has always there's always been people that have said that Trump doesn't say this. JD Vance also starts talking about went in and was talking about the enemy within comments, and it was like he told Tapper that Trump was talking about rioters and looters and rioters, people that were looting and rioting, and then Jake Tapper tries to say, well, he also when he talked about using the military to control looters and rioters, and then he turns it and says something about he was talking about saying he was talking about Nancy Pelosi and other people like that, and it was like he was trying to make this leap from one comment to another, where like trying to make this logical fallacy where there's no time that he has ever completely said this is what I mean by enemies from within, or this. It's like the bloodbath comment again too. They take everything out of context, or they're presenting it out of context. And I wish I had that clip, because JD Vance does a great job explaining the enemies within comment. And it's interesting because, if anybody had any issues with Brett Baer's interview, like contentious interview with Kamala Harris, Jake Tapper did the same thing, pushing back, debating with JD Vance in this interview. I have no issue with it, but I know a lot of people did when it was Brett Baer doing it to Kamala Harris. So, but all right. Again, thank you all for joining me today. This was fun. Love getting on here and chatting with y'all. Now, if you haven't already, make sure you click that like and subscribe button below. Follow me across all social media platforms. And I will see you next time. Go vote, go vote, go vote, or don't vote, but make sure you know why you're not voting. All right. See ya.